Francis Ngannou, right? So the news has come out. Well, first it kind of started with somebody getting fired in the UFC, more than likely, or in the arena, where they put up the big announcement saying Ngannou, or not Ngannou, I'm sorry, Cyril Gane versus John Jones for the heavyweight title in March.
Yeah.
I think it was March 8th or something like that.
March 4th.
And somebody called them
Yeah,
and was probably like, hey, take that down real quick.
Well, the best is, who's that guy? Aaron Bronstetter or whatever, however you say his last name. I don't know what's up with that guy. He called and he called the T-Mobile Arena. He tweeted, he's like, yeah, I called them, asked them if they ran that ad. They said no, so this is fake. And it's like, okay, it's probably real then, because that's the same guy who was like, when Kevin Holland and what's his name? They had the brawl. Hamzat. They had the brawl backstage, and the press conference got canceled. And he was like, in all my years of covering the sport, I've never seen anything like it. And then when they finally showed the footage, it was like a front kick to the body, and then everybody backed away. And it's like, all right, dude, anytime this guy says anything, I'm assuming the UFC is paying him to say it. So once he said that he called and they said, well, we never ran the ad, all this stuff, it's photoshopped or whatever. I was like, all right, it's definitely real. Like, it's definitely happening. And that also means Francis is gone.
I think that was the first thing that you said, right? When we're in that group text and somebody posted that picture and you're like, rip Ngannou, man.
Yeah. There he goes.
So, now, the thing
within
is,
6 months, all the 3 African champs that they were going to take to Africa and headline an event, all 3 of them, all lost their belts.
Izzy, Usman, Ngannou.
2 of them got knocked out and 1 of them left. Shout out Francis, man. What a fucking baller.
Yeah, and and props to Francis for knowing his worth and sticking to his guns. I mean, here's a guy from the sand mines that had to sneak his way into France and fought his way over to the US. Yeah, and he's saying, look, if you're not going to pay me what I know I'm worth, then I'm out. And Dana's like, well, we're trying to make him the highest paid fighter in history, more than Brock Lesnar.
Yeah, which is big, right? But because I think Lesnar got like $2 million or something like that to come back for UFC 200. So that's huge. But Francis in one fight is going to make like $10 to $15 million at least. Yeah. And the UFC is saying, we can't pay that. We can't do that. Yes, you can. You really, really can. You just won't. And Francis definitely gets nominated for the Dumbass of the Year award. I disagree. He's about to make a shit ton of money, more than anybody in UFC history, really. I think the UFC's Fury. Yeah, he's gonna fight. He's definitely gonna fight Tyson Fury. He's definitely gonna lose that fight, but it won't matter because he's gonna make more in that one fight than he would have for the rest of his UFC career combined, most likely.
And that's the thing. Let's say that they offered him, let's say they offered him a huge contract.
Yeah.
And let's say they told him,
shout out Regen, by the way.
Hey, what's up, Regen? Let's say that they offered him a $5 million contract. Okay. No pay-per-view points, flat, $5 million.
Yeah.
He'd probably have to fight 3 times to make what he would make fighting a Tyson Fury once.
And if he loses that belt once, you guarantee you're not going to be making that money. There's no way. They would.
Regen saying Francis did say it was never about the money.
Yeah, he talked on Ariel, said that right off the bat, UFC offered him a lot of money. This was before he left. This was way back when the dispute first happened. He said, they offered me a lot of money, but it's not necessarily about that. It's about the disrespect they've given me. It's about, I want to go do this and that, and they won't let me. It's more about that. Wherever he goes. Yeah, exactly. I mean, Francis is going to, no matter where he goes, even if he doesn't fight Tyson Fury, he's going to make a ridiculous amount of money. There are no shortages of organizations that will pay a ridiculous amount of money to have a star come and fight. He has so many options now. Scott Coker's already like, cool. Yeah. You think Scott Coker didn't hear the fact that Dana said that he's going to offer him more than $1 million a fight? Scott Coker knows that, but he's still saying, hey, offer still stands. I still want to talk. Exactly. You don't think Jake Paul's already invited him to the super fight division of PFL? You think Francis is going to go there and lose to somebody? Who beats him right now? Who beats him? And in MMA, who beats him? In boxing, he's going to get beat by whoever he fights.
Jake Paul.
Yeah, no, he's not going to fight Jake Paul. Everyone's like, Jake Paul called him out. It's like, no. Jake Paul's trying to get him into that super fight division to fight somebody else. But No matter where he goes, he's going to make a shit ton of money. He's going to get sponsors. He doesn't get sponsors in the UFC. Dude, Horiguchi makes $600,000 every fight in just sponsors. What do you think
Dang.
Francis is going to get? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it's the UFC will never and also the UFC is fine making him watch. They don't want stars like that anymore. They do not want that. They actively are trying to stop. They're not a fight. They're not a fighter promotion business. That ship has sailed. That is not their marketing strategy. They want these types of guys who make a lot of money. They want them gone. They don't need to take out. They don't need to. They don't need to get big pay per view numbers anymore. It does nothing for them. If anything, it literally makes them less money. When they have a high selling pay per view and they because they stacked it with stars, they have to pay a lot of money. They're actively losing money. Their business model does not want stars anymore. Francis is not a star. How much did his last pay per view make? I believe it was like the Cyril Gane fight. I think it was like 350 or 400,000 buys. But that's irrelevant because the UFC doesn't care about pay per view money anymore. It doesn't go to the UFC. They don't get that money. So what they see is they get a flat rate for every single pay per view, no matter what. But if Francis is on the card, they're paying him millions of dollars, but it doesn't translate to more money back for them. Why would they want that? They don't want that
Hmm.
anymore. It's not
So you're
about.
saying when we're taking a look at the organization, this is solely you feel like an organizational move so that it doesn't hurt their bottom line.
Yes, because the when Endeavor bought the UFC, they took on massive amounts of debt. Like I think it's like $3.5 billion of the $4 billion sale is debt that they still owe. So what do? They signed the deal with ESPN to give them a flat rate every year, no matter how many pay per view buys they get. The UFC doesn't get that money; it goes to ESPN. They get a flat rate from ESPN. They signed the DraftKings deal. It's like $300 million a year. So cool. So they know what they're going to make from ESPN every single year. It's no matter what effort they put into it, they get the same amount of money. So what do? They need to. How do they make more profit? Because that's what the UFC wants, right? They want more profit. Every business wants more profit. So if they're making a flat rate, no matter what, every single year now, how do you make more money? By cutting the cost. How do you cut the cost? You pay fighters less. You cut Ultimate Fighter. You bring in the Contender Series. You bring in guys on $10,000 contracts. They come in. They make less money. So by comparison, now the profit that you get from ESPN is now more. Even though you're still getting the same amount of money back, you're now spending less, so you're making more money. That's all that matters for them. Until they can pay off that debt, they need to make a certain amount every single year. And the only way they're going to do that is cutting guys like Francis, cutting guys like Overeem, cutting these guys who make a lot of money because they've been fighting for so long. And they bring in all these guys from the Contender Series who make way less money. This is all like, this sounds like a crazy conspiracy theory, but it's very public. It's very like, this is, you can look it up. They're not hiding this. This is literally their strategy right now. Until they can pay that debt off, they do not want stars like this.
And how much more impressive does this like is this for Andre Orlovsky, for example, who's
Yeah.
been in the organization forever, right?
Mhm.
I'm sure he's a company man too and says like, hey, I'll give you a company man discount and all these different things,
Mhm.
but I don't know.
Yeah, HLB
That's pretty
Coleman says
impressive, yes.
Will is in Wakanda world delusional like Francis. We will find out soon enough. Not everybody is Connor. The UFC doesn't want Connor. They don't want fighters like Connor. They do not want that right now. They'll get that later. They already have the grip on the market. They don't need to prove themselves anymore. They're when people think of MMA, they think of UFC. They don't need to do this anymore. They don't need the stars because the stars help promote them. Ronda Rousey was massive for the UFC. Connor was massive for the UFC. Once they sold, now they need to make more money. All that matters is money, and they're not getting money from pay-per-views. Conor McGregor does not make the UFC any more money than Sean Strickland headlines a pay-per-view. They
Hey,
get the
shout out
same.
DL.
Shout out DL.
Yeah,
Shout out DL.
joining us again
And
today.
nobody is big. HLB Comer says nobody is bigger than the organization, and that is on purpose. They will not let anybody get bigger than the organization. That is
I think
not.
one of the biggest things that somebody had pointed out one time, I'm trying to remember who it was and where I heard it, but they said all you have to take a look at and you have to go no further
Mhm.
is the posters. So you see like a major boxing match, right? You see the poster, whether it's Fury versus Wild or something. They're selling Fury versus Wilder. Like that's the
That's all
biggest
they
thing you
got.
see on there. You see, but then you go to the UFC and it's UFC event name
Yeah.
And then underneath that, you have the matches. So they're selling the organization as a whole first.
Yeah.
And when I started thinking about that, I started paying a lot more attention to just the marketing for both sides. And I was
Mhm.
like, holy smokes, man, it's super clear.
Yeah, I mean, you can look at Ari Emanuel. He's done talks at Stanford. He's done talks about a bunch of places. He's done talks about business strategy with what they did with the UFC. He's very open about this. This is not a conspiracy theory. The UFC is openly saying this. They are not promoting fighters anymore. They barely even promote the fights anymore. They don't need to. They just put out, cool, this is the event we're going to do. Awesome. People are going to watch. But it doesn't matter if they watch or not. That's the reality. They don't need pay-per-view buys. They get ticket sales, but they don't need pay-per-view buys.
Yep.
It's irrelevant to them. That's why. Why do you think they cut tough? Why do you think they laid off? I think they laid off like 25% of UFC staff when it never bought them right away because they have a massive amount of debt to pay back. A
Poor Chuck
massive amount of
Liddell.
debt. Yeah, they cut. Yeah, that's when Chuck Liddell all that stuff happened. So they know how much money they're making from Venom. They know how much money they're making from DraftKings. They know how much money they're making from Crypto.com. All of these deals. Why do you think they're coming so hard down on Kraus right now? They did not care. They didn't care about Kraus's betting thing until people started pulling out. Betting companies, sportsbooks started saying we're not going to let people bet on the UFC because it's too close to fixing fights. Then they changed their tune real quick. Lifetime ban. Anybody who fights with them banned, because if that spreads and they lose DraftKings $300 million every year, they would lose Crypto.com their money. All this goes away, but they desperately need it. Desperately need that money because that's the only way they're able to pay back the debt year after year. So Francis is
I just had a text message come through. Shout out Dom. It's a picture. It says Edwards versus Usman 3 for UFC.
Oh yeah, it's official now.
Yeah, it's official
now. Yeah.
Breaking
Sorry,
news.
that was a long rant, but it's super
Yeah,
interesting
hey,
to
dude.
me.
Hey, we still have to cover another league, bro.
I know. Shout out everybody in the chat. Shout out HCP Comer. Shout out DL. Shout out Regen.
Yeah, and hey, but
Francis is happy
Regen.
to leave even
Last
if he
point.
loses money.
Yeah,
he's not going to lose money though. He's going to make a lot more money.
but I mean, even if he does lose a little bit of money, who knows?
No,
right,
dude. This is a big blunder by the UFC. This is not a blunder by Francis.
Maybe this one will go down forever, and maybe they'll have a Francis curse later on.
Yeah, and Dana's like, yeah, I
We'll
think
see.
bottom line is he doesn't want to fight the hard fights anymore. And it's like, yeah, why would he if he's going to make way more money somewhere else? UFC is not the big spender that everybody thinks they are. They're really not. Why do you think they lobbied for athletic commissions to crack down on releasing fighter purses? That used to be a thing. Every single fight, it was public because it's a government-run organization, the athletic commissions, and the UFC is who got them to stop doing that. Why do you think that is?
You are the biggest UFC hater I've ever met. For somebody that watches every UFC episode or like every UFC UFC matchup, every UFC event, you are the biggest UFC hater I've ever met.
They make it easy, man. Once the Fertitas left, you could really see the change in the strategy and just the change in the organization. It's a bummer.
Hey everybody, Romero and Will here. Thank you so much for watching that short clip. It's just a small clip of what we covered this last Sunday.
Yeah, if you want to check out the full fight card recap, the link is in the description, and it's going to be on screen at the end here. Don't forget to go back and watch our fighter interviews that we have. And don't forget to tune in live every Sunday morning at 9 a.m. Pacific, 12 p.m. Eastern, and you can join in on the fun.
Yeah, don't forget to like, subscribe, hit the notification bell. It goes a long way. All right, everybody, thanks for watching that short clip from Story of the Fight.